Alright, this is an update for the STUNFISK deck profile. It's been a little bit, and there have been some kind of tunings I made to the deck. Just changes in how many cards I'm including, some new suggestions, and then at the end I'll show some other cards you could be swapping in depending on how you want to play. But to start off, I am running 3 STUNFISK, 3 Z, 2 Bronzor, 2 Bronzong, and 1 Crobat. I'm running 3 STUNFISK instead of the 4 because I wanted to include another Zacian. You're never going to be using more than 2 Zacians in a game, but I thought it was important enough to include a third just because you need to get the Intrepid Sword turn 1 if you're not attacking. It's just really good for draw and energy acceleration. Just 2-2 with the Bronzor line. Metal Transfer is still really strong in this deck, and 1 Crobat. Crobat I have lost so many games because of, but I don't know what I would replace this Crobat with. It's just very important in games here and there, like just getting an extra hand late or mid game, but it's such a big liability, it's hard to justify. Next up I'll be going over the item cards. Okay. So for the item cards, I believe this is unchanged. 3 Switch, 1 Escape Rope, 3 Cramomatics, 2 Evo Incense, 4 Quick Balls, 4 Metal Saucers, 1 Vitality Band, 4 Capes, and 4 Caves. Path does a number to this deck, so having 4 Caves is really important, just being able to bump whatever stadium. A lot of the times just getting archetype-specific stadiums out of the field is really good. Like, what's the one that Calyrex uses, besides Training Court, the one that inflicts damage for every time you attach a non-metal energy, and Rose Towers if you're playing against Mew. Training Court is good to use, good to have if your opponent plays it, but a lot of the times I like to use the Training Court the turn after it gets played, and then bump it for Crystal Cave to get the heal. 3 Crams is good. I really prefer the Cramomatics over the Crushing Hammers. Switching is really important, that's why I run a heavy switch count, plus the Escape Rope. Escape Rope can come in really handy beginning of the game, turn 1. If you want to try and get your opponent stuck, change their active Pokemon before they get going, can kind of throw off their game plan a little bit. 4 Quick Balls is pretty standard, and the 2 Evolution Incense, I think that's a good amount. Just finding the Bronzor, or the Bronzong with those is good. The 1 Vitality Band and the 4 Cape of Toughness. I run 4 Cape of Toughness just because I like to bulk up the Stunfisk, bulk up the Zacian, and then bulk up the Crobat. It makes Crobat less of a liability. You'll only be giving it 230 HP though, so if your opponent comes out with another Zacian and just bosses it up, it's not going to do much in that situation. But if you're playing against a Duraludon that doesn't have Zacian down or anything that hits for less than 230, it'll buy you an extra time or an extra turn. The 1 Vitality Band is really good. It pretty much just wins us the Jolteon matchup. It fixes a lot of the math, just Stunfisk doing 70. I prefer usually to put the Vitality Band on the Stunfisk, because having your Zacian have more HP is more helpful, because I think just 70 damage is a lot more useful, because Stunfisk is going to be getting more HP just because of its ability, whereas Zacian is not going to have its ability changed unless it has a cape down. So generally I like to put the capes on the Stunfisk and a Vitality Band on an attacking Stunfisk. Next up I'll go over the supporters. Alright, So I run a pretty heavy supporter count for Marnie. For research, 3 boss, and 1 copycat. Marnie's research, just having 4 of them, making sure that you always have access to a new hand is really good when you're not using boss that turn, just so you can find the resources. STUNFISK is a pretty tempo-based deck, so just making sure you're getting an attachment each turn, at least one. Getting the crams, getting just all the pieces you need to succeed is very important, so that's why I run the 4 Marnies and the 4 research, and the copycat is a good card. I was considering playing a 4th cram over the copycat, but I feel like copycat is really good just being able to shuffle in your hand if you don't want to put it on the bottom or discard it. Also, a lot of decks like Mew usually pass on 6-card hands, or a lot of other decks that just don't play Marnie, like Duraludon. You'll often see them, have very large hands, because if you're not Marnieing them, they don't play Marnie. So you can just copycat and then get a giant hand like that. It's pretty easy. And then 3 bosses orders, just so you can gust when you need to. You can play 4, but I'll talk about that more at the end when I go over the list changes you could make, or different options this deck has, because it's pretty versatile. But next I'll go over the energies. I play just basic metal energies. 11 basic metal energy. Really, really good. Just having enough to make sure to usually get an energy hit on Intrepid Sword. Of course, it's very game dependent, how many you have in hand, how many you've discarded, so on. But just getting the Intrepids with that, making sure you have them in hand if you want to quick ball away something so that you can Metal Saucer it later. It's a good card to discard, it's a good card to attach, and having a lot of energies on the field is really good so that you can get a bulky Stunfisk that's very hard to KO. Now I'll be going over kind of what you can't change. So, in the future, with the Entei and all the fire support that's coming out, you might want to swap some of and I think I included this in my original deck profile, or I know for sure I used to run it a while ago, but swapping out some of the metal energies with coating energies, removing the weakness. The downsides to that is you're not going to be able to Metal Saucer it up, and you can get fanned. But depending on how strong fire is in this next format, is going to change how many coating energies I want to play. I have played 4 in the past when fire was pretty prevalent in my area, but now that there's not many fire decks I really have to worry about, or just in general any fire decks, I'm pretty comfortable with saying that currently you don't need to run any coating energies. Changes to the amount of Pokemon you can play. I'm still debating whether or not I want to play 3-Zation 3 Stunfisk or 4 Stunfisk 2 Zation. I have done very well with this layout here. I've also done pretty good with this. I wouldn't recommend this. That's a little too much. So right now, I'm thinking this is the best. Alright, another card you might want to include, this time on the item side of things. Fan of Waves. Right now in this format, there are so many decks that play special energy. Mew, Duraludon, Jolteon. I guess it matters a little less in the Jolteon matchup, but just most of the top decks are running some sort of special energy. Rapid Strike, Single Strike, very good decks. They all run heavy special energy counts. So playing a fan in the future right now is good. Next format, just with the amount of special energies that are going to be played, we'll have to see where it is. But some cards I would consider cutting to make room for that would be maybe one switch. You could drop a Crystal Cave because we play 4. Um, you could also probably drop the Copycat, even though I'd strongly disagree with that, just because I feel like it's such a good card in this list. But right now, I am very, very, very thoughtful about how I'm going to include Fan, because I think I need to. Right now, you need to include the Fan. Just having a good one of it just puts it in. If it put it in their hand or in the discard, it wouldn't be as good, but shuffling it back in, it's kind of harder for most of the decks to find them again. Of course, Houndoom can just single strike roar them out, and the Octillery can find it from the deck, but just buying you some time, getting some disruption in is really good. But yeah, that kind of concludes it. I'll, try to post some gameplay again with this list. And if I do have any updates in that list, I'll be sure to show you in the beginning. But yeah, I honestly think Stunfisk is really good right now. I think we beat Jolteon. We go even with Mew. Our hardest matchups would be probably Shadow Rider and Rapid Strike. But once Bench Barrier comes out, I'll be sure to include a Bench Barrier so that I don't have to worry about that as much. We'll see how much of a difference that makes, but usually when Mew was run, when I ran ADP, Mew was pretty important in just getting us an extra turn to set up or get another Zacian or ADP going. So I'm kind of thinking that's how it's going to look with Stunfisk. Just being able to set up, because right now, Rapid Strike choosing to attack only the bench and not the active Stunfisk is killer. It kind of kills the deck, which is something I've been struggling with. Even though I have beaten it, it usually comes either pretty close or I lose in 2 turns. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you follow in. I'll probably update for sure when V-Star comes out, probably a week or 2 into that format. Let you know if I'm still running the deck, if it's complete garbage, if it's good. But I'm thinking it's going to get good. I think it's going to get good in this meta. Just figuring out how to run the coding energies is going to be hard. But alright, that does it. Thanks.